Today, I'm going to be sharing some tips on how to read and enjoy non-fiction books. So let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Rachel here. As always, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Like this video so that it is referred to other viewers as well. Hit that notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a video. So like I said, today we are going to be talking about how you can read and enjoy non-fiction books. Now, a lot of readers typically limit themselves to only fiction books because once you say non-fiction, the first thing is, self-help. I'm not interested. What is self-help about? I don't want anybody telling me how to live my life. Self-help, it does not really help yourself and whatever. There's always so much backlash on self-help books, and a lot of people just limit themselves only to the fiction genre. But I'm here to give some tips on how you can actually read and even enjoy non-fiction books. And I'm going to start by saying that non-fiction genre is not just about self-help, motivational, inspirational books. The non-fiction genre has so much more to offer than self-help and motivational and inspirational books. And that is not to say that self-help, motivational and inspirational books are not, valuable, or they don't have their advantages in reading them. I personally have benefited a lot from reading self-help books, and they have helped myself, and they have given me a lot of valuable information and knowledge that I've not gotten from people. I've been able to learn, from the mistakes of people who have maybe carried out business or time management or things like that in terms of finance, and I've learned a couple of lessons that have stuck with me over the years. So when you're talking about non-fiction books, it's important that you do not just say, oh, non-fiction is self-help, I'm not interested in self-help. Under the non-fiction category, there are a lot of types of books that you can read. There are memoirs, there are biographies, there are autobiographies, there are essays, there are some collections of short stories that are even non-fiction. There is historical non-fiction, which can educate you and inform you about the history and culture of a certain group of people in a time frame. There's so much that you can benefit from the non-fiction genre of books. The non-fiction genre is a beautiful genre, and I'm just speaking from personal experience because I've learned so much about it. So if you're used to reading fiction a lot and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to delve into non-fiction, I don't know where I'm going to start from, I'm not interested in self-help, okay, fine, let's put self-help to the side first of all. But before we do that, let's start with number one tip, and that is to have an open mind. You can't go into the non-fiction genre and say that, oh, you know what, these are the certain things that I'm not going to read. I'm not going to read this, I'm not going to read that, I'm not interested in this, I'm not interested in that. Start with having an open mind. You never know what you can learn between the two covers of a book, and that's one important thing that I've learned. Don't judge a book by its cover. Some books have terrible covers, literally and metaphorically. Some people have said things about books that, this book is just a sorry attempt or whatever. And then you read the book and you're like, oh my goodness, this book spoke to me. It actually, talked to me. And then you go and read reviews and people are like, I didn't benefit anything from this book. I thought it was just a sorry attempt at a self-help book. And you're like, huh? Is it the same book that we read? So books often speak to people differently, and that's fine. But you need to have an open mind when going into the non-fiction genre, because you will see a lot of things that may interest you, some things you may not be interested in. And like I said, non-fiction is more than self-help books. My second tip would be to do some research on the subgenres. So like I said, there is autobiographies, there's biographies, there's memoirs, there are essays, there's the self-help genre, there's even like educational books and things like that. There's historical non-fiction, and a couple of other genres that are very interesting. If you know any other subgenres, please leave in the comments so that people can see as well. Do some research on them and see which ones might interest you. Funny enough, you might admire a sport athlete that you think lived a very, very good life, or you admire their discipline and their mantra and how they were able to get things going, and you like the way they live their life in terms of their success pattern and all of that. So they're probably dead or they're still alive and they've written a book. Most of the time they would write maybe a biography or an autobiography. For example, somebody like Trevor Noah, I just admire certain things about him and I loved his autobiography and I picked it up. It's called Trevor Born a Crime and Other Stories. I know Kobe Bryant wrote his own book. I think it's called Mamba Mentality. So there's a lot of people who have written, but you might not even be an athlete. it might be a musician, an actress, an actor. A lot of people, Mariah Carey has written her book, Gabrielle Union has written her book, Kevin Hart has written his book. So a lot of people always share their stories and lessons that they've learned, how they're growing up, their child stories. Granted, some may speak to you, some may not speak to you, but there's so much that you can learn, but you have to do some research first on these subgenres to know what you can find in these books. I know that even for historical non-fiction, I did some research to find out what books are recent in terms of Nigerian history, and I know that I left some recommendations on my channel. I'll leave the link up there so that you guys can check it out. And I was so impressed to see that over the past maybe 10 to 15 years, you've seen this crop of Nigerian writers writing genuine and true accounts of Nigerian history that have been left out over time and were written in favor of maybe colonialists or people who had earlier come to Nigeria and settled. But these are written by Nigerian people, gotten, like, the facts are proper and have been gotten from, you know, Nigerian historians, and the facts actually check out. So this was what I got from doing research on some of these subgenres, and I've actually learned a lot. So do some research yourself and you'll be interested to see what you find other than self-help. Now, for number 3, for self-help books, you can skim rather than actually going in depth on the book, and this goes in different aspects of maybe non-fiction books that you decide to pick up. One thing that I've learned is that non-fiction, especially self-help books, they present like proper principles that sometimes are even highlighted in bold. Some people will say things, you've heard these things over and over again, but maybe the way an author might approach a particular topic might be different from the way another author approaches that topic. So if, for example, the topic is to be authentic, you can take out the main points, or the chapter is be authentic, take out the main points from that chapter. You can highlight, you can use sticky tabs, take out the main points, absorb them, you know, meditate on them, think about them, apply them. If there's any practical tips to apply some of these lessons, apply them, and then you move on. You don't have to sit down and actually swallow every single word, every single letter. Some people read in-depthly for self-help books, and that's amazing. But if you're new to that, then this is one way that you can get into self-help books. So skim rather than actually indulge, like enter into the book in depth. Skim, take out the lessons, highlight, you know, use your sticky tabs, practice, meditate, use the practical tips that have been given, and you'll actually find that those lessons may be valuable to you after all. Number 4 is to read books on subjects that you actually enjoy. So that's another way to enjoy non-fiction. Me personally, I love history. I love learning history about a particular group of people, whether it's through historical fiction or historical non-fiction. And I love history. I love talking about history. I love seeing how things happened before, you know, and how maybe that has affected how things are currently happening or how things will happen in the future. And so for me, in terms of history, I go a lot with the historical non-fiction, especially with Nigerian and African fiction. So that is a subject that I enjoy. I also enjoy things about like airplanes and the dynamics of airplanes and how they work. I watch a lot of documentaries on that. I'm yet to see books on that, or maybe I've not really done research on those ones. Even in terms of movies, the movie industries, so on the entertainment industry in general, there's some celebrities or musicians, actresses or actors that I actually like and admire. I admire their work ethic. I like what people have said about them, and I look out for their books and maybe how their story, how they were able to get to where they have gotten to, whatever they have to say. I'm always interested in hearing. It may not necessarily impact on me in the sense that, oh, I must model my life around them. No, it's just some of the lessons that I can pick up for them, and sometimes I'm just really intrigued as to how somebody got to where they've gotten to in life, and I want to know what steps and how your life story was before you got there. So you can choose to read books on subjects that you enjoy. I'm sure that there are subjects that you enjoy that do not necessarily filter in the fiction aspect. Another tip would be for biographies and autobiographies. Think of someone, like I've said, that you're intrigued by and read up on the person. There's obviously people that you're intrigued by. If this person has not written a book, then somebody has written a book by them. I'm very intrigued by Elon Musk and his success story, how he was able to get SpaceX up and all the behind the scenes thing that he did. And it was just so intriguing to see his life story and everything about the man that we now know as Elon Musk. Number 6 would be to read some fiction along with non-fiction if you are just starting. So you may be struggling to enter into the non-fiction genre and you're like, oh my goodness, this is not for me. No problem. You can read fiction as you are starting out on the non-fiction journey. So you don't have to just fly into all the non-fiction. Always have a fiction book with you that you can get into if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling like, this is not for me, so that you can always go back to that and just get yourself starting again so you don't fall into a reading slump. My 7th tip would be to pick an easy book to read, especially if you are exploring something new. So as much as I said, read up on subjects that you love, there are some subjects that you may not even know whether you love it or not. It's new, you're trying to explore it. Pick something simple, something that will not overwhelm you, something that will not throw you into a reading slump, something that will not make you wonder, why did I even start this in the first place? And there are a lot of recommendations, but you have to do some research on it. Remember, this requires intentionality because you're getting into a genre that maybe you've already bashed in the past and you're like, I'm not even interested in this non-fiction thing, but then you decide that you actually want to try. So remember that it will require a lot of intentionality, maybe some research, some reaching out to people, some exploring of new things. But remember to pick an easy book to read if you're exploring something new. My 8th tip would be to be okay with not finishing a non-fiction book. So now you've done research, you find out what you love, you know the subjects that you would like to read, and then you start on it, but you're struggling. And there's a particular book that you're reading, maybe it has been hyped in the non-fiction book community by a lot of people. This book is life-changing. This book is guaranteed to just teach you valuable lessons. This person's story was so inspirational. You're definitely going to love this book. But then you're reading the book and halfway through you're like, I'm not really feeling it. Be okay with not finishing the book. No matter how much you even love the celebrity or you love the person, be okay with not finishing any book so that you will not be thrown into a reading slump. Perhaps you can discuss with your reading partner, your accountability partner. If you belong to a book club, that is also a great way for you to discuss non-fiction books and actually get into non-fiction books. So be okay with not finishing. You can talk to those people. If you have inspiration or motivation, that you can come back to it. My 9th tip, which I just referred to, would be to join a non-fiction book club or a book club that reads non-fiction books. A lot of book clubs typically stick only to fiction books, but some book clubs actually alternate. Like I know the book club that I belong to, every month we alternate. So 1 month we read fiction, the next one we read non-fiction. And you see that a lot of people who are not used to reading non-fiction actually struggle. But just because, book club is going to be an interesting time where you discuss with other book club members and you're excited to talk about the book of the month, you want to have something to contribute, so you actually read the book and then you come. And remember, like this month now, for example, or rather in July, we're reading Educated by Tara Westover, and by the time this video goes up, I don't know, maybe we would have discussed it at book club meet. And I'm so excited to know her story. Before then, I didn't even know who she was. I didn't know anything about her, and I've seen so many great reviews on that book. So how would I have known if we did not suggest it as a book pick, as a book club pick read for the month? So you can join a book club that actually reads non-fiction books so that you can get amazing recommendations, or you can join Clubhouse conversations about books that people are reading. I know that I picked up amazing recommendations on Clubhouse that time that Clubhouse was in and everything like that, and I would have conversations with book lovers around the world. I know that 2 books that I got from Clubhouse that I knew that were going to be amazing, one of which I've read is The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. I had never heard of that book before, and then I picked it up and I loved it. It spoke to me. Another one that I'm looking to read in the month of August is Brave Not Perfect, and those books I got them from Clubhouse and from discussions with other book lovers. So engage in some of these things like this and you will just find what a treasure the non-fiction world is. My last tip would be to try different formats of non-fiction books, and these formats come in audiobook, hard copy books, paperback books, or even e-copy books. Don't just be like, it must be in the hard copy books. You'll find that some audio books, like some of these autobiographies or biographies, are actually very interesting to listen to. If it's somebody that you admire and the person has recorded an audio book, go and listen to it. I'm sure, like I've given Trevor Noah's example, you can go and listen to the audio book, and I heard that one is actually very interesting. I haven't listened to it myself, but I know how interesting the hardback book was. So you can explore different formats to listen to non-fiction books. If hardbacks are not working for you, try audiobooks or soft copy books. Anyone might end up working for you. So guys, those are my 10 tips for you to help you read and enjoy non-fiction books. So if you're looking to enter into the non-fiction genre, let me know in the comments. If these tips have been helpful, let me know as well. If you have any additional tips for people who would like to read non-fiction books and just explore more of non-fiction, let me know in the comments as well. If that is you, let me know in the comments as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your friends that may consider this useful, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.